Hello and welcome on the front, where we discuss all things military history and I bring you to the battlefields today. My name is Matt and I'm currently standing in the forest just outside of the town of Holtzwihr in France at the monument dedicated to Audie Murphy and the brave soldiers of Company B, the 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the fierce fighting that took place here and the heroic actions of Audie that would result in him receiving the United States' highest medal of valor, the Medal of Honor. So come with me and let's explore. Audie Murphy, born June 20th, 1925, was resolute in his efforts to join the US military following the surprise Japanese attack at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. Audie signed up for the Marines, but was rejected due to him being underage and not meeting the physical requirements, coming in at 5'5" and weighing only 100 pounds, or 166 centimeters and 45 kilograms. Undeterred, over the next 7 months, Audie gained an additional 12 pounds, 5 kilos, and with a falsified affidavit from his sister declaring the then 17-year-old Audie as 18, he was enlisted to the army. After completing basic training, Audie was assigned to Company B of the 1st Battalion, 15th Infantry Regiment, part of the 3rd Infantry Division. In the events leading up to his actions at Holtzwihr, 19-year-old Audie had earned every Army Combat Award for Valour available during his period of service, from North Africa to Italy to France, and had risen to the rank of First Lieutenant. On the day he was awarded the Medal of Honor, he was considered to be America's most decorated World War II soldier and received national recognition when Life magazine made him their cover story. By November 1944, US and French forces to the north and south of the region of Alsace, France, had forced the Germans west of the Rhine into a semicircular bridgehead in what became known as the Thorn on the Rhine, or the Colmar Pocket. In an upcoming video series, I will discuss these battles in further detail, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss those. The fighting in and around the town of Colmar raged from January 20th to February 9th, 1945. This campaign, though, has been largely overshadowed by the events occurring at the same time further north during the final days of the Battle of the Bulge. The ferocious fighting that took place in the town of Holtzwihr was pivotal to the Allied war effort to push the last of the German forces out of France and press towards the Rhine. On January 20th, it was decided to push the remaining Germans out of France. French attacks to the south of Colmar had been halted by fierce German resistance. Responsibility then fell to the US 3rd Infantry Division under the command of General John W. O'Daniels to attack across the Ill River, bypass Colmar, and open a path for the 5th French Armoured Division to cut German supply lines at Neuf-Brisach. US attacks began on the 22nd of January 1945. Their objective to cross the River Ill just behind me and to push forward into the towns of Holtzwihr and Reitwihr. It would be the 30th Infantry Regiment that would capture the Maison Rouge Bridge on the 23rd of January. But the bridge, being unable to support US armour, ultimately collapsed, the remains of which can be seen just here behind me. Without the support of US armour and a ferocious counterattack by German forces would see the US have to reluctantly retreat back across the river after suffering tremendous casualties. In the days that followed, it would be Audie Murphy's 15th that would have the responsibility to recapture these objectives. US engineers were able to construct a bridge just a little bit further north, and with the aid of US armour, recaptured the Maison Rouge Bridge on the 25th, and then push forward into the Reitwihr forest. So follow me and let's have a look at those positions. By midnight on the 20th of January 1945, Bravo Company had managed to reach some 600 metres into the Holtzwihr forest. The fighting to get to this point, though, had been extremely ferocious. With the exception of Audie, all officers of Bravo Company had been killed, and 102 of the 120 enlisted men had either been wounded or killed in action. After a short resupply, Audie was ordered to take his remaining 18 men to the edge of the Holtzwihr forest right here and to hold his positions until reinforcements reinforcements could arrive. Audie later remembered the futile attempts that his men made to dig into their position, stating that the only benefit they received from digging into the frozen ground was the exercise. Audie was extremely concerned over a dawn attack, and now having been reinforced by 2 M10 tank destroyers, he shored up his position. Although spread thin, Audie knew that the German armour would have to come down the main road and positioned his armour as such. At 2 o'clock on the 26th of January, Audie's worst fears would be realised, seeing some 6 German tanks and at least 250 infantry emerge from the town. Immediately alerting his men to the oncoming attack, he radioed back to Battalion to call in artillery. No sooner had he done this, all hell broke loose. The German preliminary artillery attack had opened up on Audie's positions, and the 2nd Mountain Division began to rapidly advance from Holtzwihr across the field just behind me. Their objective: to capture the main road, push the US forces out of the forest, and threaten the 3rd Division's headquarters. Once the German armour came within range, the M10 tank destroyers began to return fire, but to little effect. Their 90mm shells simply ricocheted off the heavily armoured German vehicles. Their 50 caliber and 30 caliber machine guns, though, had greater effect against the advancing infantry in the open. The German armour had taken out Audie's machine gun crew, and the feared 88mm had now destroyed the rear M10 tank destroyer, killing the commander and the gunner. Undeterred, the lead tank tried to maneuver itself into a better position, but ultimately lost control, sliding off the road, landing in the ditch just behind me, its main gun at an angle, unable to then bring fire onto the advancing enemy. Now sitting ducks, the crew escaped the vehicle and retreated to the cover of the forest. Audie, with both tanks now destroyed, and the Germans coming ever so close, realised his position was untenable and ordered his troops to fall back, while he stayed behind to call in artillery support. Reluctantly, his men withdrew. Audie later recalled that this wasn't a heroic act, but rather that if one man could do the job, why risk the lives of others? Audie managed to call in the artillery with extreme precision. Once the German units were within 50 yards, a nervous lieutenant from battalion headquarters asked where the Germans were positioned, and Audie famously replied, "If you just hold on, I'll let you talk to one of the bastards." Now, with all of his ammunition expended, Audie prepared to fall back. And doing so, he noticed that the 50 caliber machine gun on top of the burning rear M10 tank destroyer, which was positioned right here, was still in action. The tank was full of fuel and ammunition and could have exploded at any time. Undeterred though, Audie climbed aboard the burning wreckage and began to employ the 50 caliber against the infantry in the open. He realised that the machine gun would have little effect against the German armour, but relied on the fact that if he targeted German infantry, that they would be reluctant to advance without infantry support. German units by this stage had managed to reach up as close as 10 yards to Audie's position, using the drainage system beside the road as cover. Audie quickly took out the German units. Audie later recalled that the Germans most likely didn't realise where he was shooting from. The smoke from the burning wreckage, combined with the heavy artillery and the sheer carnage of war, probably meant the Germans didn't even realise where he actually was. Audie's luck, though, continued to hold, and the grey clouds above broke for a very short moment, so that he was able to call in some of the US air support to strafe the advancing German units. Some units of the Germans did manage to reach the rear of the forest and threaten the battalion headquarters, But they'd realised now that their position had been clearly zeroed in, and the infantry began to retreat, and wisely, without infantry support, the German armour also followed. Audie, who had now been injured, was bleeding profusely from his legs. He climbed off the tank wreckage and then began to limp back to the battalion headquarters. In doing so, the M10 tank exploded behind him. Once he reached the US lines, he refused medical attention and quickly organised a US counterattack, pushing the remaining German units out of the Holtzwihr forest until Bravo Company had retaken their initial positions on the edge of the forest. I'm now in the centre of Holtzwihr. Strengthened by reinforcements, the 30th Infantry Regiment secured the town of Holtzwihr on the 27th of January 1945. The Germans, disheartened by the lack of progress against American units, withdrew most of their troops and materials, and except for small pockets of resistance, the entire area east of the Ill River and north of the Colmar Canal were cleared of German troops by January 28, 1945. After the war, Audie returned to his hometown in Texas. In September of 1945, he was invited to Hollywood by actor James Carney, who had seen his photo on the cover of Life magazine. Audie himself would go on to become an actor, starring in more than 40 films, including To Hell and Back, where he plays himself and recreates the fateful events on January 26, 1945. Symptoms of combat stress immediately became evident to Audie's family and friends. Reoccurring nightmares had him sleep with a loaded pistol under his pillow, and waking up from graphic flashbacks caused him to freeze, reliving the life-threatening moments on the battlefield. Audie later would talk candidly about his post-war related stress in an effort to draw more attention to the emotional impact of combat experiences for returning Korean and Vietnam War veterans. On May 28, 1971, Audie and 5 others were tragically killed in a plane crash. In all, 3 US soldiers would be awarded the Medal of Honor for their bravery during the Battle of the Colmar Pocket. So be sure to hit subscribe to hear those stories in the upcoming series. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in those comments down below about what you think of Audie Murphy and his remarkable bravery. As always, if you like this video, hit that like button, and if you would like more content from me, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on the front.